Alrighty, now we'll talk about the most important subject, because we've already covered fencing, we've already covered deworming, we've already covered hay, we've already covered the catch pen, what I'm leaning on right now. The most important part is the actual sheep you buy. And I talk about this from a point of like a decent amount of experience, especially in the years I've been in it. And I've probably owned somewhere just north of 1,000 sheep, and I've probably handled or transported or helped with 2,000 to 5,000 sheep. You know, something of that sort. I've helped with a lot of sheep, and I've followed a lot of sheep. And what we've mainly talked about here is getting ready for meat sheep. You know, with the wool sheep, that's up to you. You're probably in the north, and I wouldn't recommend it. And with horn sheep, I think they're awesome. They take a little bit more detail, and they're a bigger upfront cost when it comes to actually buying the right genetics to make it worth it. A lot of people start out small in it, and quickly, I've seen the same 6 steps happen for everybody, and that's that they discover them, and this is for horn sheep. They discover horn sheep, and then they eventually, like, they think they find a deal on a horn sheep. They find a sheep with horns and they buy it for cheap, and then they sit there for a couple months and they feed it and they make sure it's fat and healthy and everything, and then they discover, like, man, my horns on my sheep don't grow as much as everybody else's. And then so they dig a little deeper, and then they realize, oh man, I need to get better genetics. And then they think they find better genetics just because they find a sheep that's sired by a good ram. That doesn't really mean much if the female side, the dam side, is no good. So they discover that, and then they buy that. I guess that's more than 6 steps. Then they buy that one, and then that one grows okay, and then they realize, like, man, like, you know, some people are growing these sheep. Some people grow a sheep that takes me 3 years. They grow it in 13 months, and then they go, like, I want to get into the good stuff. And then they start getting prices, and then they go, holy smokes, this is expensive. And then they sell out. I've seen that by 50 people, and it's very common. So I wouldn't really recommend horn sheep as a first endeavor into the sheep business, really. Hair sheep, on the other hand, meat sheep, are awesome. They're great, but you have to be very, very particular in what you're looking for. A lot of people, you know, everybody's looking for a cheap animal, and I can't tell you, you don't ever have to buy anything off of me, and I wouldn't expect anybody to. I discovered through trials and tribulations that the cheap animals are almost 98% of the time not worth it. You're sitting there and you have this animal, and it causes you problems. It gets parasites easily, so you're always deworming it. It's always a little skinny. You just look at it and go like, man, it's just a skinny sheep. And it can be fat and skinny, you know? If it's, a lot of Katahdins are like that. A lot of people have Katahdins, and they're just low quality genetics. Now there's some fabulous Katahdins out there. It's a sheep breed if you don't know what it is. There's some fabulous ones out there, and you could tell the people that know what they're doing, they got it. They got it down. Same with Dorpers. You'll see, it's not as common with Dorpers. It's hard to find a super skinny, really leggy Dorper and someone still called a Dorper. But it happens, and you discover, like, man, I could buy a real cheap animal for 120 bucks or 80 bucks, and you know, it's kind of like buying a used, like, 1990s vehicle that was cheap when it came out. Or you could go buy like a new Cadillac of a Dorper for like $250. Like, you'll find a high quality Dorper females for $250. Breeding quality, they'll drop you lambs, they'll do good. You don't necessarily have to go with Dorper, and I almost don't recommend it. Katahdin is a great breed to go with. I would say St. Croix, but you have to really find a proper St. Croix breeder. That's another breed. They're super parasite resistant if you find it the proper way, and most people watching this probably know the breed from Greg Judy, and he does it proper. You know, the benefit of the St. Croix is the parasite resistance, and a lot of people that breed St. Croix don't actually have great parasite resistance. So it might be a little better than average, but for a lot of people it's not worth it. And I remember I went and bought a registered St. Croix ram from a dude that ran his name's I'll have to find it later. It's almost like something like Greg Adele or something like that, and he's in South Texas, and he has an operation just like Greg Judy's. He's got the red cattle, he rotates them every day on electric. He's got the St. Croix sheep. He registers his is all registered St. Croix, but he rotates those every day. And I had that ram, he got mean, that's why I got rid of him. He got mean, but man, he would throw out some parasite resistant babies. Like, you never had to deworm anything. You didn't have to deworm him, you didn't have to deworm the babies, you didn't have to deworm anything. And that was great. That was great. And if you can find sheep off an operation like that, I'd recommend it for St. Croix. But for the average person, I would budget. I would discover how many sheep you need, and depends how many acres you got and how fertile. Like this stuff right here, the problem is it snows here in the winter. You know, it snows in most of the country. I'm from Central Texas, where like more than an inch of snow is quite a bit of snow. So, but the quality isn't this good. You don't get grass like this most of the places. So for even a place like this, I wouldn't go over a sheep per acre, because anytime you move sheep from one property to another, they're not used to the parasite load. They're not used to anything. It takes adaptation, and the sheep you move will adapt, but their babies will be the true adaptation. So you don't want to say, hey, I can hold 100 head of sheep. We just built this fence, I can hold 100 head of sheep. Let's go buy 100 head of sheep. Because then you're just setting it up like, then you're replacing older females with your babies, which is fine. Jeez, excuse that. Which is fine, but I wouldn't recommend that way. I would go buy, say it was 25 acres and you thought you could run 4 sheep per acre. I'd go buy 25 sheep. I'd go buy 1 ram, 24 females, and I would run that. And I would let your natural born, you're not helping them. If you have to help any sheep with birthing ever, do not keep the babies. You might keep the mom because you let her have a baby again, but she's first to go. And you can't give them names, you can't make them pets. You know, if you're trying to do this for any type of business situation, you can't do either of those. So you only keep the one. I would prefer you keep the twins, the female twins that were raised by their mother with no help. So that can be hard enough to do anyways, but you keep all those and you let your numbers gradually grow to 100 over 2 or 3 years, you know. And it might take a little longer, depending on how many you're keeping. It might take, if you keep every single female, it might be a little shorter, and it depends what your twinning rate is. That's what really matters. But that'd be my recommendation. And I would set, so say you were gonna be willing to go buy 100 sheep, and that's a lot, so maybe it's 10. I would set a budget, and I would say, no, we're gonna do a sheep per acre, and we're gonna raise our budget. We were willing to spend 150 bucks on these. That's what they're going for at the auction. That's where we were going. We'll spend 250 and we're gonna go direct to the farm. I'm gonna do my research. I'm gonna spend a month, 2 months. You know, we're always in a rush. And I'm telling you what, that'll hurt you more financially than waiting. Bad. And I was in a rush. Wait. You just wait and you research and you go, this farm, and then you kind of look up. Best place to go is like Facebook groups, and you kind of look it up. You go like, okay, what's this farm, Johnny Farms. Oh, it looks like they have good sheep. So then you look up, you just type into the search bar in the Dorper groups, you type in Johnny Farms, and you look for any other people posting about Johnny Farms. They go, man, I love the sheep I got from Johnny Farms. Man, I like this. Oh, this is what Johnny Farms sold in the past. Oh wait, he's selling black belly looking ewes here, 75 of those. And on this post, he's selling Dorper looking ewes. Maybe this isn't a legit, like just, you know, in-house breeding operation. Maybe he's kind of collecting from auctions, and he puts them together, and he might feed them up, deworm them, run them, have them bred for a year, drop babies, and then he sells them all. You don't want to be getting into that. You want a dude that's been raising, that hasn't like bought a sheep in like 6 years, and you want to go buy females off of him, and you probably want to buy your ram off of him. Inbreeding is not a problem I worry about, like at all. I would try to replace your ram before he breeds his granddaughters, you know, and that's just kind of a general rule, but not even necessarily one you have to follow. So that would kind of be my, when you're looking for the sheep, you look for a proper build. I don't care what it is. You could know nothing about horses, and you could go to an auction where they're selling, you know, horse barn, and you go in there and you go like, that one's kind of skinny. That one has a lot of hip bone. This one's kind of proportioned weird. It has like a lot of belly and it has like no neck. This one has like no belly and it's got a huge neck. It's like, those are all weird. And then you look at one that's a good quality horse and pretty much anybody can tell them. It's like, man, that sucker's got a big old rear end. It's got good stout front shoulders. It's got a strong back. It's not sinking in the middle. The neck, it's like, but you might not be able to say why the animal is a good animal, but by looking at it, you just go like, I don't ride horses and I'm not going to, but if I was going to get one, it would be that one. You can do the same with sheep. You can be like, I don't own sheep and I've kind of been researching them and all I can tell you is that like this farm raises a bunch of good sheep and I'll take like 20 of them and 3 of them might be no good, 7 of them might be great and 10 of them might be average. My job is to find the 3 that aren't any good and sell them. Take them to the auction, take them wherever you want. But that's how you need to look at it, just visually. Just know it's a farm that has raised up all these, and they haven't bought any sheep in years. Preferably, maybe they're ram or something, but preferably they haven't bought any sheep in years. And then you'd be willing to pay a little more. That's the biggest crucial part. Anybody that knows what they have, they ain't gonna sell it to you for dirt cheap. They'll just rather keep it, especially if it's females. That's the beautiful thing about females. Females drop babies. And the horn business, even the males go up in value because the horns keep growing. Now in the meat sheep industry, that doesn't really happen. The males become less valuable with time. You might get more money, but per pound they become less valuable. So I've talked a lot. That's kind of my quick note on that. That's be willing to spend a little bit more, lower your stocking rates, raise up your own females. That's the way to do it because then they'll be adapted to your parasites. And yeah, and just make sure that you do your research. I don't mean hound the dude you're trying to buy from. I mean, there's plenty of farms where you can research what they've sold in the past. Does it make sense? Oh, why do all these have blue stripes on them? Is that because they put blue stripes on them to match them up with their babies when they're in the field? Or is that because they all came from the auction? Because they mark the babies and the mamas when they come through? Or like, does this have an auction sticker on it? That's the most obvious, is if they have an auction sticker on it. Any good reseller that's trying to get one over on you will take that off. So just go, if they don't have a history, I'm telling you, they might be the best sheep in the world, but if they don't got a history you can track without hounding them, just go on to the next one. Sheep, there's so many good sheep breeders that you can just go on and be willing to drive. Have a way of, I don't care if you got to find a rental, if you got to borrow from a friend, pay your friend, tell them like, hey, can I use your trailer for a day for $100 or something? Have the trailer already lined up, have a vehicle that can pull it. Make sure you're willing to pay for these things. You don't want to show up picking up 10 sheep with a crappy trailer. You want to be a stout trailer, you want those guys, they'll have a decent barn probably or a decent catch pen. It's like, yeah, open that trailer, run them in there. But if you got some like panel type back trailer thing and it's you're like, I'm gonna haul the sheep in this, it's like the guy will still sell them to you because you're buying them, but it's just like he knows it's like this ain't gonna work. And I've sold plenty of sheep. I sold the best sheep I ever had. She was a female that would have twins, and then 5 months and 17 days later, I couldn't believe it, she had twins again. And if you don't know, the female gestation for a sheep is 5 months, and they cycle every 17 days. So she literally dropped twins, and then the first cycle, 17 days later, she got pregnant and dropped twins again. And yeah, she was productive, and I didn't sell her. I sold her for $300, and really that was cheap. Because I knew what she was. I had her for like 3 or 4 years, and I just didn't really have a place to go with her. It was just like, man, this is cheap. And then for $300 it was cheap. And then her daughter, she had a single the first time out of that registered St. Croix I told you about. And man, I never had to deworm them. I never had to do nothing. And her first daughter dropped twins every time actually. And it was sold her too, and I sold her for like $250, and that was cheap. Really, that's probably based on their production, it's probably really a $500 mama, and her first baby is probably a $500 mama. I just needed them to go to a good home. Like I was willing to like literally turn people away at the door to send them to a good home because it was really they were former pets. I treat them like business, but my grandma treated them like former pets. And I didn't have a place to go that they wouldn't get bred by some, you don't want to mix your horned ram with a meat female, because then you're just going to get nothing. You're not going to get anything any good coming out of them, really. They'll be decent, but not what you want. And I need a guy starting into sheep, and he was legit. He came out, looked, and he goes, I'm building a fence, and he was a legit dude, and I'm glad he got him. And then I had some real skinny horned females, you know, horned sheep females, and I was getting rid of them. And the horned females are always super skinny, like it's not very good eating. And I had a family coming out. They came and bought. I was selling those things for $100 a pop, and that was almost expensive. Like, I wouldn't have bought them for $100 a pop. I bought them for more when I originally got them, but I was, like I told you, when you buy them 25 or something, there's gonna be some not good ones in there. And the family came out, and these suckers were buck wild, and that's fine with me, but they got 2 little kids and a dad and the mom, and it's just like, I don't know if this crew's gonna be able to handle these things. And yeah, and they came out, and it was, and I even gave them like one for free. I was like doing it, I was like, you can, like, they're supposed to pay me like 7, and I was like, just pay me 6. I was like, I wish y'all the best. And they just built a pen, and they went the cheaper route. And yeah, they got 7 sheep for $600. And if they took them to the auction, they probably would have broke even after commission, really, because females like that don't go for much at the auction. And yeah, it would have been the last thing I would have recommended. I would have told them, I would have been like, hey, for $600, like, I would go buy 2 good females. You know, you kind of run into a problem because your ram situation, but you don't want these 6. I literally told them like 12 times, like, ah, man, good luck, good luck. You know, these are cheap. This is what they are. They're cheap. They're cheap. They're cheap. This is what they are. And I wanted to make sure that point was clear. And they said, yeah. So how they ended up, I don't know, but it wasn't a good way of starting, especially because they were getting into meat sheep, and there was those. So yeah, that's my quick note on that. I think I went a little too long, so we'll skip the history lesson on this one. But I'm glad you watched. Hopefully you watch the next one.